On Law Weekly, we discuss the moves to amend the EFCC Act and some of the provisions put forward by the lawmakers and the Attorney General of the Federation. We have the views of a senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Falana. Mr. Falana, who now moves with the aid of a walking stick, recently sued the Federal Capital Development Authority for the injuries he allegedly sustained when he fell into an uncovered manhole on the streets of Abuja. He says he suffered a sprain to his right knee and had to undergo a series of medical procedures which caused him severe pain as well as physical, psychological and emotional trauma. In our interview, we also dwelt on the minor gate and his link with one of the seized properties. Also on the program, we have a feature on the Lagos traffic law, plus our weekly recap of the top trending stories from the courts. Hello and welcome to the program. I am Shola Shoyeli. There's been a series of activities by the legislature to amend the EFCC Act. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami SAN, has also proposed the repeal and reenactment of the Act. He says this would make way for a comprehensive overhaul of the issues in the Act, which have been hampering the fight against corruption. But is this really necessary? What areas of the EFCC Act really needs amendment? This was the first question I put to Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Falana.
Frankly speaking, the EFCC Act does not require any amendment in the fight against corruption. What is required is the political will and coordination on the part of the anti-graft agencies and the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. No more, no less. I'm aware there are moves to set up the Financial Intelligence Unit as a separate body, which is totally unnecessary. Whereas the Oran Committee had actually recommended the merger of the anti-graft agencies to save funds for the country. But now we are being told that we need to set up another agency. And the whole purport is to prevent the EFCC from monitoring the movement of funds by members of the political class. Such a move cannot be, and it's not geared towards enhancing the capacity of the anti-graft agency. With respect to the tenure of the chair, again, there is no problem. If we're really desirous to amend the EFCC Act, there are areas that will need to be looked at, but those areas are not being addressed at all. I mean, for instance, the board is constituted by representatives of government agencies, the Central Bank, the Ministry of Finance, and so on and so forth. If you want to have an anti-graft agency or anti-graft agencies that are genuinely autonomous and independent of the government, you will need to have accredited representatives of civil society organizations and other credible bodies to constitute the board. Again, you may want to look at the funding. How do you ensure proper funding in a way that no department of the government will hold the body to ransom? But as it is, if the Office of the Attorney General is prepared to provide leadership there are enough opportunities to wage an anti-corruption war within the limits of a neo-colonial bourgeois peripheral capitalist system, you know. Because I must confess, capitalism feeds on corruption. So there is no way you can have a corrupt-free society under a capitalist system, because tax avoidance as opposed to tax evasion, lobbying as opposed to bribing legislators, public relations as opposed to bribery, capital flight, exportation of profits are all legitimate. The dollarization of the economy, as opposed to outright devaluation of the currency, are all accepted under a neo-colonial capitalist system. And these are policies that promote poverty in the society on the part of the majority of our people, while the rich can continue to smile to the banks. So, if you are going to fight corruption, I mean, take for instance, it is very convenient for the anti-graft agencies to charge Nigerians with stealing a few hundreds of millions of naira, while multinational corporations and other foreign bodies are allowed to go scot-free when they are caught with diverting our public funds. So the government will have to reorganize and re-strategize if you want to fight corruption. But it's not about the law, it's about the political will to